Thank you for being here. This session will be mainly about SharePoint and Microsoft Teams integrations and all the possible ways that you can use to integrate and to bring data from SharePoint to Teams and from Teams to SharePoint. But without further ado, let's get this started. Please make sure you add this date to your calendars, and hopefully by then we will all be able to meet in person. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for all our sponsors. Without them, this wouldn't be possible. And let me introduce myself before we get started. So, my name is João Ferreira. I'm from Portugal and I'm currently living in Porto. I'm a tech lead at Busy. I'm an office development MVP since last year. I recently released a book about Microsoft Teams, hands-on Microsoft Teams. And I'm a blog author, and I post a lot on the hands-on SharePoint.net and hands-on Teams.net. And as you can tell by the picture, I'm also a runner, and I really like to run. Make sure you visit the vendor's booth to make sure you are able to win the Oculus, and consider to donate for the following charity relief funds. Your help is much appreciated now during this pandemic situation that we are all living. So today, I want to give you an overview of what Microsoft Teams is. By now, I'm sure you all know. On this track, you had previous sessions about Microsoft Teams, but it's always good to recap what Microsoft Teams is all about. And then I will show you how you can extend Microsoft Teams using SharePoint and how these two platforms are connected. And lastly, I want to also mention how you can extend SharePoint using Microsoft Teams. So Microsoft Teams is the hub for teamwork inside of Microsoft 365. For most of the users currently using Microsoft Teams and working remotely, if they are leveraging the full potential of Microsoft Teams, they don't need to leave the application throughout the day to do their daily tasks. This could well be considered as an operating system for most of the users if configured properly and if everything is added to the system to allow the users to leverage all the potential of Microsoft Teams. So before we go to the next slide, and let me play this, and I hope you can hear it.
Developers.
Not sure if you know what this video is about, but this is Tim Ballmer, former CEO of Microsoft Teams, yelling developers, and I'm sure if something like this would happen in the times that we are living, it's hard to imagine, but Satya could well be yelling instead of developers, it could be yelling teams, because it's all that matters. I've done this presentation 2 times before, and this slide, it always needs to be updated in every presentation. So currently there are 75 million daily active users. This number is a couple weeks old. I'm sure this has surpassed this number. So in the beginning of the year, we were around 20 million. Then we jumped to 40, and now we are at 75. So it's the fastest growing business application in the market, and not even Windows have ever used this higher numbers. All right, so let's start by talking about the out-of-the-box integrations that come pre-installed in Microsoft Teams that allow you to bring SharePoint and to bring Microsoft Teams connected in a way that they will work as a single application. So Microsoft Teams loves SharePoint, and SharePoint loves Microsoft Teams. So the platform architecture of Microsoft Teams, it's on top of SharePoint. Everything or most of the things that you have on Teams are connected to SharePoint and hosted on SharePoint. There are several different applications where content is also stored, but files that are a big part of this experience are stored on Microsoft Teams, are stored on SharePoint, and the site that is behind each team, it's also stored on SharePoint. Files, news, landing pages, SharePoint lists, all of this is stored on SharePoint and can be easily integrated inside of Microsoft Teams in a matter of clicks. So before we dig into the out-of-the-box integrations, I would like to call your attention for this representation of the physical structure of Microsoft Teams. So it can be compared to this Russian dolls we have here. So inside of Teams, you will find teams. Inside of Teams, you will find channels. And inside of channels, you will find tabs. Obviously, you will find more than this, and the architecture of SharePoint on top of Teams looks like this. So on Teams, you can have two different types of channels. When the application was first released, it came only with standard channels. Everyone inside of a team has access to all standard channels. And this is the structure inside of Microsoft Teams. So you have the team number A, channel A, B, and C. And behind the scenes, on the bottom layer, let's say it this way, you have the site collection A, and you have a document library for each one of the channels. So you have a document library, for the team, and for each one of the channels, the standard channels, you will have a folder. So you will have a folder A for channel A, folder B for channel B, and so on. So this was the first architecture of Microsoft Teams and SharePoint, but private channels are now a thing. They are available for a few months already. And private channels allow you to have a set of users inside of a Teams that share their own space, and they can share information inside of the team that it's not visible to all the members of the team. So this means that the underlayer of SharePoint will be different. Visually, you will see things on Teams. You will see things the same way you've seen with the standard channels. You will see private channels with an icon that will represent that the channel is private, but that's about it. On SharePoint, however, things are a bit different. So each private channel, instead of having a folder inside of a document library, they have their own site collection. Well, they are not site collections with the full power that site collections normally have. On SharePoint, they have limited functionalities, but each private channel has its own site collection, and that is represented here. So standard channel A and B, and there are the correspondent folders, and then the private channel C and the document library. All right, so moving on to the next. So, I'm sorry, because I'm having issues here controlling my presentation with this laptop, but all right. So the first thing that I want to show you is how you work with files inside of Microsoft Teams, and how you combine what exists out of the box and comes pre-installed every time that you create a team with what you can add on top of each team. So let me switch back here to this browser, and give me just a second so I can open the tenant where I have my demo prepared, because I had to change the laptop at the very last minute. All right, let's see. Loading, loading, loading. All right. So when you first create a team, you will have a Files tab on your general channel. So this is the tab that gives you access to the folder on SharePoint of this particular channel, and you will see it across all the channels. So you will have the post where you have the conversations, and you will have the Files tab where you have your the access to your folder. This is great. This gives you the files that you should see in the context of this team or these channels immediately. But if you have things that are stored on other libraries, or if you want to show not just this folder, but more folders, what you can do is add an app, and you will see that there are several, or you will see two default SharePoint apps. So you will see the document library, and this document library allows you to pick up a site collection, and allows you then to, and let me get back here, and let me pick here another site collection where I have way more files. So this will allow you to not just pick up libraries from the site collection that is associated to the team. Seems that it doesn't like it, or it's here already. But you will also be able to get libraries from other site collections. Obviously, the permissions are not automatically shared across site collections, and it's not because you've added a document library from another site collection that all the users from this team will get access to the document library on the other site collection. So you need to make sure that the permissions are the same, or at least you need to be aware that in case the user doesn't have access to the site collection where the document library is, he will not see all the files. You have to show them. So as a comparison, here you have the default files repository with pointing to a document library, and this is how it looks. And you can create and you can upload files to this folder through here. But at the same time, if you have more content on SharePoint, you can also bring it to the Teams using this app. The layout will be a bit different, but the options to create new files and to upload work the same way, and the same thing for the document. So even though things look a bit different, they work pretty much the same way, and you will be able to interact with documents from multiple locations. All right, the next thing that I want to show you is how you build rich landing pages on Microsoft Teams. So on Teams, obviously you can build tabs with apps, and that is all great. But if your users are moving on from the typical corporate intranet solution that was hosted inside of SharePoint with fantastic layouts and a bunch of web parts, things that were custom made on the landing page to display news and to display specific content that was tailored to the needs of the user, well, on Teams, things don't work that way, and you have one app for each page that you see here. However, if you have your landing page built on SharePoint, specifically on modern SharePoint, you will be able to bring it to Microsoft Teams, and the page itself will adjust and will adapt to the Microsoft Teams environment. It will detect that it's being rendered inside of Microsoft Teams, and it will remove the logo and the navigation and the header, and all those things will be removed, and you will end up with your page inside of Microsoft Teams. So this is one of the examples. Another one is here, and both have different layouts. So you are actually able to do this using the SharePoint app. This app was recently modified until a few weeks ago, or until a month ago or so. You were only able to pick one page from the site collection that was associated to the team, and you were not able to go to other site collections. But now with the newest version, you are able to add a page or a list from any SharePoint site. And the same thing applies to this app. You need to guarantee that the user has the right permissions to see it, otherwise he will end up with an empty tab. This page that I'm showing here is not using the SharePoint tab, and you can tell that because we have this message here at the top. The workaround to get pages from any site collection inside of the Teams tabs was to use this website, and this is exactly what is being used to display this page over here. And that app always add this message at the top. So if you have pages from other site collections being displayed inside of your Teams using this approach, you no longer need it. You can replace the website by the SharePoint app, and this will go away. What if you have a hybrid environment and you have content still on SharePoint on premises that you would like to display inside of Microsoft Teams? Unfortunately, I don't have access here to my on-prem VM in this machine, but the way to add on-premises pages to Microsoft Teams is using this website page. But if you are using the default Seattle master page, the on-premises pages will not render inside of Teams. And that's because by default, they are not allowed to be rendered inside of an iframe. If you really need it, and if you really need to display an on-premises page inside of SharePoint, you can modify the master page and you can add a tag that allow the master to be, or the page that is using that master to be displayed inside of an iframe. And by doing that, you will be able to then, using the website, bring SharePoint on premises to the context of Microsoft Teams. All right. SharePoint lists. It's another big thing, and now more than ever, I already had a list here with the capital L instead of the small l, because Microsoft is about to release the new Lists app. Lists will be way more powerful than they are nowadays. They still miss a few of the options that we used to have on classic SharePoint, but all that will be available inside of Microsoft Teams and inside of SharePoint with the new Lists app. I'm not here to talk with what the feature will be later this year. I'm here to show you what are your possibilities with the current state of lists inside of Microsoft Teams. So before I show you how it's done inside of Teams, let me go here and let me open my SharePoint. Well, I don't remember the URL, so I will go straight here, straight through this one here, and I will click here. All right. So this is the list being displayed inside of modern SharePoint. Nothing new, nothing fancy here. It's a list with a bunch of data. But the good thing about this modern news is that you can easily transform the types of data and the layouts of what you see into a tile view, and you can format those lists and you can present them into something like this. This is the exact same data. The only difference here is that I created a view and that view was formatted with this JSON code that I have here, and it creates a completely different interface, and it's completely different to interact with data in this format that it is in the classic, let's say, Excel format view. So the same thing, it's possible using the SharePoint app. So if you go here and if you add the SharePoint list, but instead of using the Pages tab here, if you use the list, and again, what you will see here on the Lists tab are just the lists that you have in this site collection, the site collection of this team. If you want to add lists from other site collections, you need to paste the URL in here. You will see this Teams logo across all the demos that I will do. Please ignore it. This is an extension that I have deployed here to share content to Teams. This has nothing to do with the default functionalities of Microsoft Teams. So if I select here the car fleet, I'm actually able to see exactly the same thing that I have on SharePoint. But if I open this list, by default it's displaying the tiles view, and this is something that you can take advantage on the Microsoft Teams, because if you define the tiles view as the main tiles for your list, your users will see this immediately in this format. Obviously, they can still interact with the other types of layouts, but by default, it will load the tiles view because it picked up the car's view. That is the default view with the tiles layout applied to it instead of the all items view. All right. How are we in terms of time? All right. So extending Microsoft Teams other than what comes installed by default. So you have three different ways of doing that. You have no-code solutions, and no-code solutions are exactly what we've seen so far. We are only covering what you have to integrate SharePoint and Microsoft Teams. You can go to the store, and I'm sure you will find there more apps now that there are more than 400 apps on the store. It's publishing more and more every day, so I'm sure there are more apps there that integrate with SharePoint, but those are the no-code apps. So you will have the app, you will have to configure the settings, but it's about it. Then you have the low-code apps and the low-code extensions. And here I only have the App Studio and App Templates, but the Power Platform, it's also a low-code solution that you can use to extend Microsoft Teams using SharePoint and Teams combined. And then you have obviously code from scratch, and here you have the SharePoint framework that allows you to not only build applications for SharePoint, but also for Microsoft Teams. And you also have the applications built using the Microsoft Teams framework that once package also work inside of SharePoint. So let's see how this works. So the no-code solution that I've just explained. So we have personal apps, we have bots, we have tabs, we have connectors, and we have message extensions. So on Microsoft Teams, you will find these 5 different types of apps. So, and all of these are available as no-code solutions from the Microsoft Teams store. Some of them will be installed by default on your Teams, like the SharePoint apps that we've seen. Others you will have to install from the store if your administrator allows you to do that. So the low-code solutions, and I would like to start with the App Studio to show you how you can build your apps using SharePoint and package them into a file that can be installed and shared with others inside of your organizations. So with Microsoft Teams, Microsoft also released an app called App Studio, and this is a great app, not just to build apps, but also to build the schema for the more advanced apps and to validate schemas. So the App Studio, it's this app that I have here. From the manifest editor, I will get access to all the apps that I've done so far, but I'm actually also able to create new apps. So this button here will bring this form, and by filling this form, this in the back will generate the JSON file with all the fields properly configured, so you don't need to worry about getting the structure well done manually. So, but instead of building one from scratch, let's go here and edit this app. And I'm mentioning the App Studio because if you want to integrate it with SharePoint, and if you will be using your app using Teams client, there's a few things that you should be aware if you want to get your users logged in immediately into the app. So in the first page, the app details, you will have to fill the form with your name, developer information, with the websites. If you are a partner and if you will distribute the app, you need to put here your NPM ID. This way, Microsoft will be able to track the usage of the app. You have to define the everything related with the app, like the branding and the colors and the icons and all of that. On step number 2, you will find the types of apps. You will get a team tab. This is the type of apps that you can add as tabs. These apps require a configuration page, and we will not use it in this demo. Instead, we will use the personal app. And as you can see, I have here quite a few tabs created on the personal app. Here on number 10 and number 11, I have SharePoint with a happy face and SharePoint with a sad face. If we click here to edit this, if you look to this content URL and to this website URL, they are pointing to the page directly. All of this is fine. In most of the scenarios, your users will not have any issue by accessing the page this way. However, if it's the first time that the user signs into the page, and if your personal app is installed and without ever opening SharePoint library or the Files tab in that session, the user will not be able to see any tab of your personal app, because even though this shares the same unique structure and the authentication, it's the same, it's not shared across Teams and SharePoint. So the way to make this work, it's not rocket science, and it's in fact being used by the SharePoint web part. So the content URL will point to teamslogon.aspx instead of the direct page, and then the destination parameter in the query string will point to the page using relative URL. This way, the page will do the authentication itself if the user is not yet authenticated, and everything will work fine. This is how you add the tab using the SharePoint page, but it doesn't end here. If you go to then domains and permissions, you will have to use this app ID. This is the ID that already exists on your Azure. This is the one that is used by SharePoint framework as well. So you just need to paste it here. You can get it from Azure, or you can get it from the documentation of the SharePoint framework. All of this is available in the documentation where the schema for the SharePoint framework app is available. And you also have to add these domains, this list of domains. Wildcards will trigger an error or a warning, and you should consider not to use them. If the app will be only used inside of your tenant, you can replace all the wildcards, and dog food will not be needed for sure. You can replace this wildcard by the URL of your organization. So once bundled, and I will not be able to demo this here because I'm logged into the browser, and the browser never has this problem because the authentication is immediately shared. But once you do this, and if I go here to my PNP app, I think it's not this one, should be this one instead. Yeah. So if I click here on SharePoint, even though it went with a different URL, the redirects and the authentications are quite fast, and you will not notice any delay loading the page, and you will see exactly what you see when you add the SharePoint tab to your page. All right, I am on time. All right, code from scratch. On Code from Scratch, we have SharePoint Web Parts and Microsoft Teams apps, and those apps can be used, SharePoint apps can be used on Teams, and Teams apps can be used on SharePoint, as we will see. I will not cover the development process. I would love to show you how the two projects look like, but the code is not on this machine, but I can show you how things look like when installed. So I've picked the code from a to-do app, and I bundled that into a Teams app as a native Teams app, and that's what I have here. So if I type here something demo, this is my to-dos app, and this was natively done using the Microsoft Teams framework. I had to host this myself inside of my website, so I had to handle all of that, and that needs to be done for every native app that you developed, or every native application that you want to implement. Plus, this is a really simple example. It's just a to-do app to show you how things look like and to show you how this integrates with SharePoint. But if you want to integrate a native app with SharePoint using Graph or using other APIs, you will have to handle the connections and all the security on the Azure side of the house. So you will have to configure all of that manually. While if you use the SharePoint framework, everything will be handled automatically. So this is how it looks like in Teams. What you probably don't know is that if you go here to your app catalog, on SharePoint, I have here an app with a different icon that's just a zip file containing a manifest and two icons. And this was also deployed to SharePoint. So this is the Teams app that it's also being used here on SharePoint. So let me go here to the home page of this site. And as you can see, this is exactly the same app that was never packaged as a SharePoint app. So everything that you build for Microsoft Teams, you will be able to bring it to the Microsoft SharePoint with no issues. Same thing, it's valid for
everything that you build for SharePoint can be easily integrated with Microsoft Teams. Let me look here for an app that it's actually built for both platforms. And as you can see, the modern scripts editor web parts that I really like to use highlights this sync to Teams button. And when it does it, you are able to get the app also inside of Microsoft Teams. And that's what happens if I go here to the maps. This is the SharePoint web part being rendered inside of Microsoft Teams using the web part, the SharePoint web part configuration pane, and all of that. So all of this is SharePoint behaving as a native Microsoft Teams app. So if you build it once, you will be able to use it. Another example that I would like to show you, it's a more complex solution that it's not this one, so I have to add it here. So it's the snake game, because why not? Who said Microsoft Teams couldn't be fun? And I will not be able to demo it, but this is the snake game. This is being displayed inside of a SharePoint page right now, but this app was built to be a game for Microsoft Teams and not for SharePoint. And if you look here to the leaderboard, this is actually a list that exists on SharePoint, that it's being rendered and being displayed inside of Microsoft Teams in the context of a game, and the users will not see it because it's hidden, and the data it's being reused inside of Teams. And obviously you can play and you can challenge your friends to have to play games and to see who is the best one playing the classic snake game in Microsoft Teams. So it's reaching the end, and we are almost reaching the hour limit, but I don't want to live without giving these top 10 reasons why SharePoint framework rocks when used in Microsoft Teams. The number one and the most important for me, it's the hosting. So with Microsoft Teams SharePoint framework solutions, you will get a CDN host for free. So the app is deployed, everything goes to the CDN, everything gets configured out of the box on SharePoint, and you don't have to worry about anything and any of the configurations. You will be able to reuse the code, and the framework provides you the interfaces that allow you to detect if the app is being rendered on Teams or in SharePoint and adjust the behaviors accordingly. The Azure AD single sign-on, it's built in, you don't have to worry about it. If you go with the classic development method for Teams, you will have to handle this yourself. Same thing for the configuration page on the web part. And number 5, as I told you, you know where you are and you know what you need to know inside of Teams in the Teams context. Number 6, it's one of my favorites. You will get access to Microsoft Graph and SharePoint APIs in a way that it's just a matter of clicking on the approve button and you get access to it in a few seconds if you are the administrator. The data is stored on the Office 365 group. You will be able to manage everything centrally from one SharePoint, from one app store. So you don't have to worry about managing apps from the SharePoint framework or from the SharePoint App Store and the Teams App Store. Everything gets deployed directly inside of SharePoint, and with the same Teams, it's sent directly to Teams. And last but not least, the SharePoint community. So you will find support no matter what. I'm sure someone will be available to help you. If you go to, if you reach one of the community members, I'm sure you will get help, and you will find someone that either had the same issue that you had and blogged about it, or did the video, or if none of that, it's a reality, someone will help you with the issue and will help you to debug it. So kudos to the SharePoint community and Teams community for building these strength relationships and for providing this easy way for us to extend these two amazing platforms. This is the end of my session. I think we still have time for Q&A. I would like to ask you to go to the speaker feedback and event feedback. You have the QR codes and the links here. My contacts are also in this slide, and if you want to reach out to me, you can do it by mail, or you can reach me on Twitter, or through one of my blogs, and I will get back to you.